Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? This time we're taking on those incredible walking tanks, the armored dinosaurs.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and get this, we've got some amazing research from China to share. Stuff that's not exactly mainstream knowledge, you know?
It's true, a lot of this research hasn't really made it to the wider audience yet.
Right, and I think that's what makes these deep dives so exciting. We get to go behind the scenes and uncover some truly mind-blowing discoveries.
Absolutely. And when it comes to armored dinosaurs, there's so much to uncover. I mean, how did they go from like zero armor to full-on walking fortresses? What were the evolutionary pressures that led to those incredible defenses?
Okay, so let's rewind back to the beginning. Before the plates and the spikes and the tail clubs, what did the ancestors of these armored giants look like?
Well, picture this. A tiny dinosaur, just over 3 feet long, zipping around on 2 legs in what is now Venezuela.
Wow, tiny. And where's this on the timeline?
We're talking way back, about 200 million years ago, during the late Triassic.
Got it. And what's the name of this little guy?
Laquintasaura. And here's the kicker. It wasn't just a plant eater. It was an omnivore.
Wait, an omnivore. So like a scavenger, grabbing whatever it could find.
You got it. It probably munched on plants, insects, maybe even small animals. Talk about adaptability.
That's incredible. I guess being picky about your food wasn't really an option back then, especially when you're small and surrounded by, well, big, hungrier creatures.
Exactly. Every calorie counted. But hold on. Let's fast forward a bit and meet another key player in the armored dinosaur story. Scutellosaurus.
Okay, Scutellosaurus. What's special about this one?
This little guy was another early ancestor, and its tail, super long, almost 2/3 of its entire body length.
Wow, that's a seriously long tail. What was it for? Balance.
Most likely. That tail probably acted like a counterbalance, helping it stay upright, maybe even giving it a bit of extra speed.
I can imagine it whipping that tail around to keep predators at bay too. But was it rocking the armored look yet?
Starting to. Scutellosaurus had hundreds of scutes covering its body, basically bony scales. It's like nature's version of chainmail.
Hundreds of scutes. Wow, that's dedication to defense. But didn't you mention another armored dinosaur? Scelidosaurus? Was that around the same time?
Ah, you're sharp. Yes, Solidosaurus actually predates Laquintasaura and Scutellosaurus by a good chunk of time. It's from a different lineage, though.
Ah, so a different branch of the armored dinosaur family tree.
Precisely. It had well-developed armor, too, but sadly, both Solidosaurus and those early ancestors we discussed went extinct.
So like an evolutionary dead end.
In a way, yes. But their legacy lived on. It's like nature was experimenting, testing out different armor designs before hitting the jackpot with those iconic groups we all know, the Stegosaurids and the Ankylosaurids.
Okay, so that brings us to the superstars, the ones with the plates and the spikes. Let's start with the Stegosaurids. I mean, who doesn't love a Stegosaurus?
Oh, absolutely. But before we get to the king of the plates, Stegosaurus itself, let's take a detour and meet a lesser-known Stegosaurid. Is a Berrysaura.
Berrysaura. Sounds intriguing. What's special about this one?
Well, it had something a bit unusual. A beak-like mouth. Not your typical dinosaur feature.
Or a beak. So not just chomping on leaves. What was it eating?
Scientists believe it was tackling tough plants, maybe even toxic ones. It's like this early Stegosaurid had a taste for the stuff that would make other herbivores sick.
Talk about a specialized diet.
Yeah.
So tough plants, possibly poison. I'm guessing they needed more than just a beak to handle that. Did this early Stegosaurid have any armor yet?
Probably some scutes, but the really impressive armor that came later in Stegosaurid evolution.
Okay, so where do we go next on our Stegosaurid journey?
Well, to see how those defenses developed, we need to head to a paleontologist's paradise, the Sichuan province of China.
Sichuan, the land of spicy food.
That's the one. But it's also a treasure trove of dinosaur fossils, especially Stegosaurids.
Wow, so a hot spot for armored dinosaur discoveries. And who are we meeting in Sichuan?
One of the stars of the show is Wuerhosaurus. It's a smaller, more primitive stegosaurid. It gives us a glimpse into those early stages of stegosaurid evolution.
Okay, Wuerhosaurus, the early Stegosaurid. What kind of armor was it sporting?
Paired plates running down its back, spikes on its shoulders, and those iconic tail spikes.
So not just defense, but strategically placed defense. I'm seeing a pattern here.
You're absolutely right. It seems like they were already figuring out how to make the most of their armor. And get this, Wuerhosaurus had these spikes along its shoulders. Imagine that.
Ouch. Extra protection right where a predator might try to attack.
Exactly. But Wuerhosaurus wasn't alone. Sharing the same stomping grounds was a larger stegosaurid called Tuojiangosaurus.
Okay, so another stegosaurid in the mix. What made Tuojiangosaurus different?
It was bigger, for one thing, and its defenses were even more impressive. Sharper triangular plates and even more tail spikes.
So bigger and spikier. Sounds like the arms race was heating up. What kind of predators were pushing these stegosaurs to develop such intense defenses?
That's a great question. It highlights a key principle of evolution: the constant back and forth between predator and prey. As predators became more formidable, the stegosaurids had to up their game to survive.
It's like that saying, survival of the fittest, and in this case, the spikiest. But wait, wasn't there another stegosaurid from Sichuan? One that took a slightly different approach to defense.
You're thinking of Chungkingosaurus. This stegosaurid might have had camouflage, based on fossil skin impressions.
Whoa, camouflage. So it wasn't just about brute force, but also about stealth.
Absolutely. It seems like these stegosaurids were masters of defense, using every trick in the book to stay safe.
It's incredible. Okay, so we've explored some of Stegosaurus's lesser-known relatives, but I think it's time to meet the celebrity of the group, Stegosaurus itself.
I'm with you on that. Let's dive into the world of the most iconic armored dinosaur. And you know what's really cool? Our understanding of Stegosaurus is constantly evolving, just like the dinosaurs themselves.
I love that. So what's the latest scoop on Stegosaurus?
Well, in recent years, the discovery of Sophy, an incredibly complete Stegosaurus skeleton, has revolutionized our understanding of this dinosaur.
Sophy. Sounds like a rock star fossil. What did Sophy reveal about Stegosaurus?
A lot. For one thing, we now know that Stegosaurus had a longer neck and a different posture than we previously thought.
Interesting. So those classic images we see might be a bit outdated.
It seems so. And those iconic plates, well, their arrangement and function are still a bit of a mystery, even with Sophie's help.
Really? I thought it was settled that they were for defense, to protect against predators.
That's definitely one possibility. Those plates would have offered some passive protection, especially those covering the vulnerable neck.
Makes sense. So what are the other theories about those plates?
Some scientists believe they played a role in thermoregulation, helping Stegosaurus regulate its body temperature. Imagine those plates acting like giant radiators.
Wow. Prehistoric temperature control. And what else?
Others think they were primarily for display, either to attract mates or intimidate rivals, like a billboard advertising, "Hey, look at me, I'm big and strong."
So maybe a bit of both. Multi-purpose plates.
Exactly. It's likely that those plates served multiple purposes. But let's be real, those tail spikes, those look like they were designed for something a little more direct.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of one of those.
You and me both. While the plates might have offered some passive defense, those tail spikes were Stegosaurus's primary weapon.
And they were no joke. I've seen those fossils. Those spikes are massive.
They could inflict some serious damage. We're talking about spikes that could probably break bones, enough to make even a powerful predator like Allosaurus think twice.
It makes you appreciate the lengths these dinosaurs went to defend themselves. It's amazing how they turned defense into an art form.
It is. But even with all their incredible adaptations, the Stegosaurids weren't invincible. Their reign eventually came to an end.
Oh no. What happened? Did a super predator finally figure out how to crack the Stegosaurus code?
Not quite a single event. More like a combination of factors, including environmental changes and the rise of new dinosaur groups that were better adapted to those changes. It's like the world was shifting around them, and eventually they couldn't keep up.
It's a reminder that even in the prehistoric world, change was the only constant.
Exactly. And speaking of change, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore another group of armored dinosaurs who took defense to a whole new level: the Ankylosaurids.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about those. They were like the tanks of the dinosaur world. Get ready for some serious armor plating.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready to delve deeper into the world of armored dinosaurs?
Oh, absolutely. Last time we explored the stegosaurids with their plates and spikes and those incredible tail spikes, but I have a feeling the ankylosaurids were on a whole other level when it came to defense.
Oh, you bet. We're talking about the armored tanks of the dinosaur world. These guys developed defenses that made them incredibly tough to take down.
Like T-Rex level tough.
You got it. Even a T-Rex might have thought twice before tangling with a fully grown ankylosaurid.
So how did they get to that level of armor? Did they follow a similar evolutionary path as the stegosaurids?
Well, they both belong to a larger group called Thyreophora, meaning shield bearers. But get this, ankylosaurids and stegosaurids actually represent distinct branches on that armored dinosaur family tree.
So two different paths to achieving ultimate armor. That makes their evolution even more fascinating. Where did the ankylosaurids get their start? What did those early forms look like?
Well, like all evolutionary journeys, it wasn't an overnight transformation. Their earliest ancestors were probably smaller and less heavily armored, but they already possessed some key features that would later define the ankylosaurids.
Okay, so give us a sneak peek into those early ankylosaurs. What made them stand out?
One of the earliest known is Mimorapelta, which lived in what is now Colorado during the Jurassic period. It was only about 10 feet long, but it already had some serious armor plating.
So I'm picturing those classic bony plates fused together like a shield.
You got it. Mimorapelta had rows of bony plates called osteoderms embedded in its skin. Imagine tough, bony plates covering its back and sides, almost like a built-in suit of armor.
Wow, so that's the foundation of the ankylosaurid armor. And those osteoderms just got more elaborate over time.
You're catching on. But what about those iconic tail clubs? You know, the ones that could probably turn a predator's ankles to dust. Did Mimorapelta have one of those?
Good question. That tail club seems like the ultimate weapon.
Well, not quite yet. Its tail was long and flexible, and while it might have been used for defense, it didn't have that bone-crushing power we see in later ankylosaurids. That tail club was a later addition to the arsenal.
It makes you wonder what drove the evolution of such a specialized weapon, right? I mean, was it those evolving predators we talked about earlier? The ones that were constantly upping the ante, pushing the herbivores to develop better defenses?
It's very likely that those predators played a huge role. If you're a slow-moving herbivore, you need a way to deter those agile hunters. And a tail club that can deliver a bone-shattering blow, well, that's a pretty effective deterrent.
I'll say. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that tail if it started swinging. And speaking of swinging tails, I think it's time to talk about the king of the ankylosaurids, Ankylosaurus itself.
Now you're talking. Ankylosaurus was the ultimate armored dinosaur. It truly lived up to its name, which means fused lizard. We're talking a massive herbivore reaching lengths of up to 30 feet, and it weighed somewhere around 6 tons.
Okay, so bigger than an elephant.
Absolutely. It roamed what is now North America during the late Cretaceous, and it really represents the pinnacle of ankylosaurid evolution.
Paint me a picture. What did this ultimate armored dinosaur look like?
Okay, picture this. A low-slung, wide-bodied dinosaur with short, powerful legs. Its entire body was covered in bony plates, fused together to create an almost impenetrable shield. And it had spikes along its sides, just for good measure. Its head was protected by thick, bony armor. And get this, it even had armor covering its eyelids.
Whoa, talk about taking armor to the extreme. I bet predators had a real tough time trying to find a weak spot on this dinosaur. But what about that tail club? Was it as impressive as we imagined?
Oh, absolutely. Ankylosaurus had a massive tail club made of fused bone. Scientists believe it could swing that club with incredible force. We're talking bone-breaking force.
Yikes. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. It sounds like something out of a prehistoric monster movie.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all about brute force, right? I mean, there must have been other aspects of its anatomy that made it such a successful survivor.
You're right. Ankylosaurus was more than just a walking tank. Its low center of gravity and wide stance made it incredibly stable. Hard to knock over, you know? And that armor, it wasn't just for show. It was designed to withstand serious blows.
Okay, so like a four-legged fortress. You couldn't knock it over, you couldn't bite through its armor, and you definitely didn't want to be anywhere near that tail. No wonder Ankylosaurus was such a success story. But were there other notable members of this ankylosaurid family?
Oh, definitely. Ankylosaurids were a diverse bunch, and they lived all over the world. One fascinating example is Wuerhosaurus, another North American ankylosaurid that shared the landscape with Ankylosaurus.
Wuerhosaurus. Okay, that's a mouthful. What made it stand out?
Well, for one, it was a bit smaller than Ankylosaurus, but it still had all the classic features. Extensive body armor, a powerful tail club. And here's what's really cool. We have tons of fossils of Wuerhosaurus, including multiple complete skeletons.
So like a paleontologist's dream, a complete picture of an ankylosaurid. What have these fossils revealed about these amazing creatures?
Oh, so much. We've learned a lot about the structure of their armor, how those bony plates were arranged, and even how those tail clubs worked. And here's a fascinating detail. We even have evidence that Wuerhosaurus might have had complex nasal passages.
Hold on, complex nasal passages. What does that mean?
Well, it could mean they had a really good sense of smell. Or, and this is even cooler, it could mean they were capable of vocalization.
Whoa, you're saying these walking tanks might have been chatty. That's not what I expected.
It just goes to show you, they were far more than just walking tanks. They were complex creatures with fascinating adaptations. And they were successful. They thrived for millions of years. And we find their fossils all over the world.
Their story is a testament to the power of evolution, to come up with some pretty creative solutions to life's challenges. But like all good things, I'm guessing their reign eventually came to an end.
It did. And their extinction is a reminder that even the most successful creatures aren't immune to the forces that shape life on Earth.
So what happened? Did a super predator finally crack the ankylosaurid code? Or was it something else entirely?
Well, that's a story for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, we're back and ready to wrap up our armored dinosaur trilogy.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
It really has. Last time we left off with the ankylosaurids, those incredible walking tanks ruling the late Cretaceous. They seemed almost unstoppable. But we know that nothing lasts forever, not even for these prehistoric powerhouses. So what happened? What brought about the end of the mighty ankylosaurids?
Well, their extinction was likely a perfect storm of events, not just one single cause.
Okay, so a perfect storm. What were the ingredients that led to their demise?
Well, one of the major players in this prehistoric drama was, of course, the Chicxulub asteroid impact. You know, the one that rocked the planet at the end of the Cretaceous period. It triggered a global catastrophe, wildfires, tsunamis, a dust cloud that blocked out the sun, plunging temperatures.
Yeah, that asteroid impact was a game changer for pretty much every living thing on Earth.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine any creature surviving that, no matter how tough or well-armored. But were there other factors at play even before the asteroid hit?
Oh, absolutely. Remember that evolutionary arms race we've been talking about? Well, it's possible that even before the asteroid, new predators were evolving, or maybe even new hunting strategies, that could give those predators an edge against even the toughest ankylosaurid armor.
So even the most impressive defenses can be overcome if the pressure is strong enough. It makes you wonder what those late Cretaceous predators were capable of.
It's fascinating to speculate, right? Imagine a predator smart enough to flip an ankylosaur onto its back, exposing its softer underbelly. Or maybe a pack of smaller predators working together to take down a lone ankylosaur. Evolution is all about finding ways to adapt, and predators were constantly coming up with new tactics.
It's that constant back and forth, that dance between predator and prey that drives evolution. But the environment was changing too during the late Cretaceous, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Environmental changes like shifting climates and evolving plant life definitely played a role too. Those changes would have put a strain on ankylosaur populations. Imagine if their preferred food sources started to disappear, or if the climate became too hot or too cold. It's a tough situation for any animal.
It's a reminder that even the most successful creatures are connected to their environment. They're part of this delicate web of life. And when that web is disrupted, the consequences can be devastating.
It's true. The ankylosaurids were incredibly well adapted, but they couldn't withstand the combination of all those factors. It's a sobering thought.
It is. But their story isn't just about extinction. It's also about the incredible ingenuity of evolution. I mean, the ankylosaurids took the concept of armor to the extreme.
Right, they're like a testament to the power of natural selection. Those millions of years of evolution led to some truly mind-blowing adaptations.
Exactly. From those small, unassuming ancestors to those incredible walking tanks of the late Cretaceous, the ankylosaurs left an indelible mark on the history of life.
And their fossils continue to inspire awe and wonder in everyone who studies them. Every new discovery teaches us something new about these amazing creatures.
It's like piecing together a giant puzzle,
Right.
right? And each fossil is another piece. But I think there's a bigger question here. What can we, the non-armored humans of today, learn from these armored dinosaurs? I mean, why should we care about creatures that lived millions of years ago?
That's a great question. Their story is a powerful reminder that even the most successful species are not immune to change. The ankylosaurids were incredibly well adapted, but they couldn't withstand the combination of factors that ultimately led to their extinction. It's a lesson in adaptability and understanding how everything's interconnected.
It makes you think about the challenges we face today, right?
Yeah.
Climate change, habitat loss. We can learn from the past, from those successes and failures, to create a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. By understanding the past, we can better prepare for the future. And beyond that, studying dinosaurs simply expands our understanding of the natural world. It opens our minds to the incredible diversity of life that has existed on this planet. It inspires us to keep learning, to keep exploring.
Couldn't said it better myself. Well, folks, I think it's time to wrap up our armored dinosaur adventure. We've journeyed from those small, unassuming ancestors all the way to the rise and fall of those mighty stegosaurids and ankylosaurids.
What a journey. It's amazing to think about those millions of years of evolution and all the incredible creatures that walked the earth.
I know, it's truly mind-blowing. And who knows, maybe one day, one of you listening will be the one making those groundbreaking discoveries, unearthing those incredible fossils, and adding to our understanding of these fascinating creatures.
It's definitely possible, so keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop learning.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of armored dinosaurs. We'll see you next time for another adventure into the prehistoric past.